I'm shocked. I'm sorry, I'm still not over Harold the Big Purple Crayon fucking trouncing the dead don't hurt. I'm actually shocked.
Well, it's what happens, but it did far worse than a hell of a lot of other films. I think that's maybe partly what decided for old Zach to actually say, well,
to move over.
My career's in the toilet anyway, so...
Oh God, honestly, when Sammy sent that through as well, because as I say, I followed him after Shazam, and during COVID he was posting some bizarre sort of like anti-Pfizer stuff and all this, and you kind of just thought people get swept along in the moment of things, but then when I saw that, I was like, fucking hell, it's not just, there's no hint about it, he's full on standing there going, you might be wondering why Shazam is endorsing Trump, and you're going, no, you were so nice in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, why have you done this?
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads. Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Batman.
I am the Father.
Everything that I've been to at London Film Festival through the GFT has been completely sold out. And I'll tell you something weird. So Chris and I were trying to work this out last night. So we were watching Anora, which I will write the review after this pod. But they actually had bouncers in the cinema. And they were like seated, like dotted about the audience. And they were going up and down the aisles, say about 10, 15 minutes before the film started, going, can you put your phone away? And they were standing over people until they physically put their phones in their bag. I have never seen that before. And I wonder what's prompted, because they didn't do it for Conclave or Blitz, so I wonder what's prompted it for that particular film. But I'm all for this, because everybody put their phones away.
Sometimes with films, if they are like so brand new, like they haven't had a lot of press screenings and festival screenings, then they want to control the way that images get out there for them. It's all part of their publicity, so therefore they want to make sure that it's not embargoed, obviously it can't be embargoed, it's a public screening. They try and hold it, some sort of control over it with regards to people taking photos and all this sort of stuff, even not necessarily filming the whole thing, but filming part of it and sticking that online, that kind of thing. I would imagine that's what it would be more than anything else, because sometimes when I go to press screenings you have to sign an embargo form saying that you won't write anything about it before a certain date or time or whatever. But also it's some you get, like for instance, I was at one for...
Oh, don't worry, I don't know what day it is.
it was the second Joker film.
Right, of course, yeah.
And I mean that's been
screened. They don't want you writing about it.
Yeah, you just give you a bag with money in it, I suppose. No, what the guy does there is he says, can you switch your phone off? And what he's supposed to do is actually take it away. But what he does is he says, he watches you switching your phone off and he says, this here, put it in this bag, and it's this wee green plastic bag.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, I trust that you will not be looking at your phone, having your phone switched on at any point during the movie. And he sits in during the movie and he has a wee look about and stuff. But obviously it's not in the best interests of any of the sort of critics to post anything prior to a film goes out, because when they'll be doing it as a critic, because it won't be doing it anonymously. If anybody's doing it, they're doing it to try and get a wee bit of traction on their own feeds, aren't they, really, more than anything else? So so they make sure that your phone is actually switched off there as well, which is
I thought it was incredible. I've never seen it before, and I wondered because like Anora obviously won Best Film at Cannes, and I don't think it's coming out until the end of November, so I thought maybe this is a deal with the production company or something, because I've genuinely never seen such a heavy presence of people monitoring, and as I say, up and down the aisles. And then I was laughing because I took a picture of the sort of, do you know how like the sort of screen when you walk in because it says LFF at Glasgow Film? So I took a picture of that when we went to see Blitz, no problem, posted it on Twitter. The guy 2 down from me did the exact same thing last night. I need a bouncer over at him going, can I see what picture you've just taken? And I had to show him it, and then he was like, right, are you putting your phone off and it's going in your bag and all this sort of thing? And the guy was kind of like, yeah. And I was laughing because I was like, oh my God, I did that 2 days previously and, there was no issue. But I am all for people actually walking up and down the aisles, making sure phones are off and there's no... Because it is, I've actually noticed, even amongst my friends, people who are going to cinema and posting, like, for example, do you know how the screen where it tells you what rating it is and it's got the title and all that, which means your phone is on and you're using it well into the film actually starting, which I just don't like.
Yeah, no, I'm exactly the same. I don't think it's a good idea, especially because it's disturbing for anybody around them who's actually trying to watch the film. And you get the impression that sometimes that when people do that then they're going to redo that at some point during the film as well, just take another couple of quick pictures, and it's just this light sitting in front of you. So it can be really annoying, and it's unnecessary a lot of the time. It really is. But yeah, I suppose that's up to... I mean, we've had this discussion ad nauseum, haven't we, about the way that cinemas are supposed to do things when they don't, because one, they don't have staff, and two, they don't actually care because they're more interested in buying popcorn.
Yeah, I don't think these were GFT staff. I think this was external.
Oh, they will be, yeah.
Because the GFT probably don't have the right amount of staff either, in terms of, because obviously that's such a huge room, that GFT one. So yeah, I thought this was kind of external peeps brought in. But I mean, Chris and I were saying the same thing last night. It's anyone who don't have the staff to police like this, even in their smaller screens. But it was fascinating to watch, and actually everybody did it. So there's proof you can sit for 2 hours and 20 minutes and not look at your phone.
Yeah, it's easy enough to do. I do it all the time. I put my phone away. I don't ever look at my phone when I'm on the screen or when I'm watching a film, because I know how disturbing it can be just as a light source more than anything else. Never mind the fact that you're being really pretty ignorant towards everybody that's sitting around you.
But did you not say you'd noticed it at the theatre as well? Were you not at an opera or something and somebody had their phone out?
Yes, it happens all the time, and they're told... I mean, I was at an opera last night.
Oh, lovely. Which one?
I went to see Don Pasquale last night at the
nice.
Theatre Royal. It was good. It was really good. And at the start of the production, as they do with all of them, I think it's just a recorded message. They say, please... I know that it's like a wonderful production and it's very vibrant and colourful, but do not take photographs during the production. There will be plenty of time at the end during the curtain calls for you to take photos of anybody and everybody you want. So please wait until then. And people obviously just ignore it and take pictures and take the video snippets of things that's going on. And again, they don't really have the staff to monitor this. They do have a fair number of staff in the Theatre Royal, for instance, but people were just ignorant. And again, you're in a dark auditorium, and if people are doing that. But these type of audiences, there's people that go to theatres, I find they're a bit more forthright about not even necessarily just like opera, but more any sort of productions, because you're paying a fair amount of money to go and see something.
Oh yeah.
And for a lot of people, it's a treat and it's something nice that they want to do. They don't want that disturbed. So if somebody's taking the piss and just behaving badly, whether it be, taking pictures or whatever, then somebody will call it out. Somebody will say to them, "Can you put that off, please? I'm trying to watch this." And they make it. And I remember there was one time I went to something. I can't remember if it was an opera or a play or something, but there were these two middle-aged women sitting behind me, and they were clearly pissed before they actually sat down, but they brought Prosecco in with them as well, and they were sitting there drinking Prosecco, and they were spilling it and all this, and they were talking and chatting all the way through and like some people were just going, "Shh, no, can you be quiet?" And then eventually somebody says, "Look, can you just shut up? I'm trying to watch this." And they went, "Oh, people," and they were moaning about the folk, how dare they and all that. But they left at half time because people were all around, and other people, when somebody said that, other people were going, "That's good, you should shut up." And it's getting a wee bit heated. It's like one of these ones that a milder version of the ones that you read about with people singing along at the musicals and all that sort of stuff.
And having to be told that that's what the performers are getting paid for.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's funny because...
And you go.
Well, I just think for theatre in particular, there's also, depending where you're sitting, of course, but you also run the risk that you're distracting the people that are performing as well. Like in cinema, obviously, that's not a live thing, but for theatre in particular, you just think you really run the risk that somebody who's, in the middle of a monologue turns round and sees your phone light in the stalls, which I think is so bizarre.
I know it must be really, really distracting, because when you're standing up on stage, all they see is darkness really a lot of the time. They don't maybe see the first couple of rows, but apart from that, they won't see very much at all. Yeah. It's quite interesting. At the production last night, there was a presentation at the end of it to Scottish Opera from the Critics Circle. It was for one of their operas last year. It was La Tricola? It was 3 mini operas that they put on. And there was a sort of common theme through them. And one of them was a comic, one was a tragic. And the other one just a bit of a nuts opera. I think it's ones that they all get performed together. I can't remember if it's the same composer that does it, but it was really well staged. It was really nice. So these sort of 3 sort of single act operas, and it won an award. And this guy from the Critics Circle came on last night. I handed him an award, and he was rambling on about. So he's called it the Scottish National Opera for a start, which isn't obviously he's thinking in terms of the English National Opera. And I think there must have been some sort of medical condition wrong with him as well, because you could see he was like shaking a wee bit and all this sort of stuff, and he was kind of finding it difficult to actually get his words. But it was good to see. But he was talking about how the Critics Circle was formed in 1913 because theatres started banning critics from going to performances because they were given bad reviews. So, and they didn't want these people to give bad reviews and therefore put the show in a bad light, or even sometimes shut down shows because people wouldn't go because they listened to critics. So what they did was basically formed a union. They formed a society, the Critics Circle, which basically was, well, the strength in numbers in these things. So I think it was a way to say, well, you may be able to stop a couple of us getting in, but you won't be able to stop all of us. So if your show's shite, then you're still going to get pretty crappy reviews. And I think it's a way of putting pressure on these productions to actually allow critics to come in and see it. So, and it's the same with films now as well. But apparently the Critics Circle covers like all sorts of arts. It's not just, it's like opera, really musicals, and all that. So when we're coming out at the end, Leslie was saying, we're talking about it, and Leslie says, "Are you part of the Critics Circle?" And I says, "No, I've got more chance of being in the Magic Circle."
That's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. Oh, dear.
Apparently, there's
our invite must have got lost in the post.
Apparently, there's 500 critics in the Critics Circle. And I was saying to Leslie, critics don't have the same amount of power that they used to have when it was kind of print. This, especially with the likes of film criticism, because it was very few people who were actually recognised as film critics. Now there are thousands, if not tens of thousands of people who post something about a film. So people listen to all sorts of different people now. They don't just listen to sort of the main ones from like big newspapers, because big newspapers aren't as read as much as they used to be, obviously, even in their online form now. People get their information from their own wee echo chamber. So
the big newspapers can't even agree, as we've all joked about. The Guardian gives the same film 1, 3, and 5 stars, so the same paper can't even agree on how they feel about a film. But no, I think, to be honest with you, now, and it's interesting because obviously we'll come on to talk about this, but it's death by social media. It really is.
Oh yeah, of course it is, yeah.
We've talked about trial by social media before in the context of sort of being cancelled, but it really is a case of, if the first few people that see your film come out on Twitter or Threads or whatever it is these days and come out and say that was shit, good luck, because it's going to be bumpy from here on out. Unless the overwhelming majority contradict that, you're going to have a problem on your hands. Yeah,
it's crazy, isn't it, the way that can happen? Because I was talking about that as well, because IMDb introduced changes to their submissions, because there was all these films getting 1-star and 10-star reviews, and it hadn't even been out. It was obviously because if you've got a film that's in production or post-production or whatever, then you've got a list of credits about who everybody is, and the site itself and the page itself is open for anybody to submit reviews at that point. And they were getting for some films, whether it be a particular interest group. So here we're talking about things like, I've seen things like films where it's got a specific theme, like Christian films, you know, these, you know, how there's all these Christian.
Aye. The IMDb disparity with the review bombs.
Like films like these sort of small Christian productions, and I'm not just picking on them because they're fucking nuts. I'm making a point here.
Yeah.
They would enlist people who were maybe sort of tangentially involved in the production to write all these 10-star reviews, saying this is the greatest film I've ever seen. It's you know, it's because you see that all the time with films, and it's especially with films that have only got maybe 40 reviews, and they're all quite similar in the way they're written, and it's all about how wonderful this film is. This is the best film I've ever seen. Such a positive family message and all that, and that's they had to stop that because in some instances there was almost like hate campaigns against films before they were released, depending on what the subject or where they were made. Like if it was like a film that was set in Palestine or Israel or anything like, or there was ones that were set, it was got to do with Turkey and Armenia, you know, how there was the Armenian genocide, and there was films about that, and they were getting all these 1-star reviews. Terrible film, really bad production, you know, it doesn't hold together, it's not coherent and all that sort of stuff. And it's all because, and it's all with people from interest groups who are either wanting a film to really succeed or not succeed due to all sorts of things, religion, politics, you know, messages about, you know, pro-choice and all this sort of stuff. So they had to step in. So they've actually stepped in and stopped these user reviews until the film is actually out. And I don't know if it's out in certain territories, so you won't accept any reviews. You would think they would do it that way, but they probably don't. It's probably just a set date.
It is a bit of a strange one, though, because it's not actually stopping the review bombing. It's just stopping it until a certain date, which obviously is the release date of the film. You would think, and again, I'm not going to tell IMDb how to run their business model, but you would think there'd be some sort of system in place where if you do have a credit on a film, you're not allowed to review it, or you like have to take a picture of a ticket stub or a Prime rental or something to prove that you've actually watched the film before you can just submit.
Yeah, that's sort of next level. Yeah,
it's too much effort, I suppose. But it does. But obviously, it's like with Star Wars, you know, and like various like DC and Marvel movies and stuff like that. There's a lot of people on the internet who have very strong opinions about these films and how they feel they should look or sound or what casting should look like or whatever. And you know, they can cause a film to fail, again, not having seen it, but just being angry about, you know, a certain person being cast in a role, or they've heard, you know, rumours about how a story is going to play out, or they don't like the fact that, in inverted commas, it's become woke or something like that. So it's all this sort of thing that can really make or break a film, by and large, by people who've not even seen it. But in a way, it all comes back to that whole kind of thing of like Ofcom, you know, say there was 10,000 complaints, maybe only 1,000 people have actually seen it, but 9,000 people have heard about what the controversial thing is, so they feel the need to phone in and complain. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. That's exactly what it is. It is kind of crazy, and it's done in a specific way so that it's there to influence people who have not seen the film. Now, and the majority of times with these films, it's because the film isn't even out. So it's trying to put people off actually going to it. So it's trying to fix the box office from day one, which, like you say, if a film is actually out, and you don't necessarily need to prove, they're just assuming that if a film's out in a certain area, then people can watch it. It will still be a biased review, but it will be a biased review, hopefully in the midst of other reviews, because some people just review really regularly. You see these also top 100 contributors and all this sort of stuff, and likes of IMDb. So it won't have such an impact. You won't have 30 or 40 1-star reviews and maybe 1 or 2 7 or 8-star reviews on a film. You'll have a more balanced sort of view of it, which sometimes I think some films wish they did do the positive review thing. Yeah. But it must be quite difficult to police that. Like you say, like, you know, if you're involved in a production, you're not going to put your own name on an IMDb review, are you? You know?
No, that's fair. But equally, like if you're involved in the production, you're not going to give it a shit review either. So there's such a it's like trying to like review your own work. Essentially, you're not going to turn around and go, do you know what? I thought I did a really shit job in this, and you know, it's I don't know. I mean, as I say, we'll get into it when we're talking about like all the summer stuff, but I just think the system is so flawed. And that's not to say that I don't agree with people being able to use their voice, because obviously we don't work for a big, organisation or production company. We're an independent film review site doing this, whether it's written reviews or podcast reviews, we're doing this ourselves. So there is space for people who are not affiliated with, be it a professional body like the Critics Circle or a big sort of brand newspaper or magazine or whatever. But the internet has obviously opened some sort of Pandora's box in terms of literally anyone can be a critic, and sometimes really unfairly films are dying on, what's been said on social media, as opposed to people going, actually, okay, people have said this about it, but I'm going to go and see for myself and see what I think and form my own thoughts.
Yeah, it takes a while, doesn't it, for it to kind of level out into what you're thinking about it. I mean, I still use IMDb quite a lot, because if there's a film that has come out on like video on demand or something and I haven't heard about it, I don't know who's in it, which obviously happens quite a lot of the time, you will look at reviews of it. Oh, look at the rating of it, and if it's below like sort of 6, then you kind of go, oh, well, that must be pretty bad.
Having said that though, I've seen it a couple of 5s where I've just thought, it wasn't that bad. So maybe something just like a reverse psychology thing where you see it and you expect it to be really bad and you go, that was all right.
No, I think you're right, because when you're in that area, it's down to sort of personal taste, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
you may be it's just not for you. That's okay.
You may be in the mood for a rampant octopus killer.
Yeah, I mean, actually, funny enough, I last night, because it was on Film 4, that Ambulance, the Jake Gyllenhaal film, and that's had really mixed reviews as well, but I'm just going to give it a go, because it looks like the kind of mindless action film that I quite like of a Sunday evening, so it's just...
Exactly, yeah, there's no... it's different when you're handing over hard cash for a film and you're thinking, well, this hasn't been getting very good reviews or anything. I probably won't enjoy this. But in the house, it is completely different. Your mood is different as well. You want to relax and just. It doesn't necessarily need to be something that you concentrate on all the time, because a lot of people just talk about, the film was on and it was kind of in the background, but I didn't really. I didn't miss anything in the film by not watching for the nuances, which must really infuriate filmmakers, because obviously they put their heart and a lot of the time. They put their heart and soul into it, and there's lots of little details that been, people will really enjoy this wee comeback, from like minute 4 and all that, and then, the kind of it's another sex scene, or just go and make a cup of tea, that kind of idea, and they're missing the fact that there's a small bottle of perfume sitting in the nightstand that was there, and it's not even to symbolise anything. It's actually in the plot. It's just a wee callback to something else, and completely missed. Bye.
But I mean, if you can watch a film and dip in and out and you're still following it, I don't know if that's testament to like really good writing that you can still follow it, or just a film that's not going to sort of test the brain, as it were. I mean, I have to say, having watched that last night, the Anora, which I highly recommend, as you'll see the review, it opens with like really quite, I would say, good to like 20 minutes worth of like really graphic sex scenes, which did cause quite a few giggles last night as well, because obviously in a cinema there's nowhere for you to go. You can't kid on. You're on your phone or go and make a cup of tea. It was just there on a giant screen. So
and you can't move your hands either or anything like that. You have to sit there with your arms crossed.
Making it like you're totally unaffected by this. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that does, because I can see that being a total like indie circuit darling. Like they're going to lap this up, but mainstream audiences, I'm not sure.
What about the other films that you've seen? What they've been like?
Do you know what's funny? Blitz I had such high hopes for that, because obviously it's a World War II film and it's Steve McQueen. And I saw, funnily enough, I wrote my review and I felt I was really fair with it. And then I saw a tweet actually afterwards, speaking of death by social media, and it said, Blitz is the only Steve McQueen film that feels like it could have been directed by anybody else. And I thought that is exactly what I had wrong with this film. It's got really good ideas. Like I thought it was going to be like an experience of like a Black British experience during the Blitz. But it just never materialised into anything. And there's all these random subplots, which I won't spoil because they are quite important But you see these characters for maybe like 10 minutes and it's all very intense, and then they disappear off the face of the earth. So you get to the end of it and you go, well, what actually happened with this, and this? Because it never came to anything. And don't get me wrong, Saoirse Ronan's great. And the wee boy, Elliot Heffernan, he is fantastic. Like, usually I have a strong aversion to child actors, but he is brilliant. But it felt very safe. It felt very Sunday night BBC drama. And I mean that in a derogatory sense, actually. Like, it just didn't do anything for me at all. Conclave, on the other hand, is excellent. Edward Berger, so All Quiet on the Western Front, and he brings back Volker Bertelmann, which I cannot say, who's the composer as well. So the soundtrack's gorgeous. Ralph Fiennes is brilliant. John Lithgow, Stanley Tucci, Isabella Rossellini. Wow. It's very like it's a very good conspiracy thriller, but there's also moments of like really funny sort of like camp, because obviously it's all pomp and circumstance. They're all standing there in their cardinal red robes, but they're maybe like having a vape and making a point, and the vape's going everywhere and stuff. And it's really funny. And it's also just, it's every other workplace. There's people who are more ambitious than others, and it's about how much are you willing to sort of throw the banana skin out to trip somebody up to get to the top. And it was so well done. I really, really enjoyed it. But Anora last night, I absolutely fell in love with. It's so good. And I would love to see more films like that, because it really does take risks, but the characters are so well fleshed out, and I think it really challenges your preconceptions of certain sort of groups of people within society. So you kind of change agencies a few times over, which I really, really enjoyed. But I just don't know how other audiences are going to take it, because I say the first 20 minutes or so are pretty fucking graphic. So, but really good. And I've got Night Bitch next week, which I'm really looking forward to, the Amy Adams sort of body horror.
Oh, yeah. I've seen images for that. I haven't seen any trailers or anything. I've avoided them because I want to go in kind of fresh to when it actually comes out. Oh, that'll be good. That looks like a really good one. So what were the gigs you've seen? I noticed you were posting stuff,
Yeah, I went to Aurora last Saturday, and then Ivor on Thursday there. So Ivor is a Faroese singer who, if anyone's seen The Last Kingdom on Netflix, she does the score for that. So that lovely sort of almost Celtic sounding kind of chanting. She used a big like Buran and stuff like that. So she was incredible. Although I was laughing to Chris because very different crowd. So Aurora was all sort of like rainbows and butterflies and all this sort of thing. We went into Ivor and it was all, everyone looked like they'd walked off the set of The Last Kingdom, quite frankly. There was a lot of locks and leather and, you know, sort of big kind of like Nordic tattoos and stuff like this. So I really had to push my way to the front because everybody was well over 6 foot. So, but it was excellent, a really good gig. She is absolutely phenomenal because she's like a trained opera singer as well. So sometimes she just sort of slips into these kind of melodies that you're just like, wow, that's taking my breath away. But she was absolutely brilliant. So it's in the QMU, so I haven't been there since I was a student, so proper throwback.
I see gigs advertised there all the time. Has it changed so that it's just open to absolutely anybody now that can go into? Because it used to be you had to be a student.
You had to be a union member. Yeah, you had to show your matric card to get in. Yeah. No, I mean, in fairness, because it was a gig on, I think you just had to show your tickets and you just get scanned in. And I got a stamp. I haven't had a stamp on my wrist for years either. So it's got significantly more expensive than when I was a student, because obviously that was a wee while ago. But it was a good atmosphere for a gig, actually. I haven't been there, as I say, for a long, long time, but it was excellent. And you felt like you were really, really close to the performers. So it was...
Is it still got the balcony bit at the back?
Yeah, it does. There was people seated up there as well. Yeah, so...
Yeah, because I always used to like watching gigs from up there because it was you get a good view and everything. You were obviously not... You didn't end up at the end of the night completely sweaty and horrible.
Yes, there was a lot of pints getting spilled on the floor. And one girl actually fainted because it was obviously quite packed in as well. So she had to get lifted out by security and stuff like this. But it was really good. And I feel like because obviously I listen to this music in the house, you never really know what kind of crowd is going to go and listen to somebody singing Faroese for 2 hours. But it was really good. I really, really enjoyed it. And actually I haven't been to sort of live music, I suppose, for a wee while, apart from Ludovico Einaudi, but that wasn't exactly raucous. So it was really, really good fun.
Nice. Yeah, it's always good to go out and get a wee bit of live music as well. I don't do it very often at all now, just sort of gigs. We did look at, this is kind of showing my age here as well, obviously. We did look at Billy Joel tickets.
Oh, nice, yeah.
We were going to get tickets for that, but it was £250 for a ticket to see him at Murrayfield. It was like, fuck no. No, we're not doing that. Thanks very much. And it wasn't just me who was saying that. Leslie was saying that as well. And even, like, Julie is a fan of Billy Joel. She always has been long time. I mean, she's only like 23, but, but she was like that. Nah, no chance.
That was the same as Elton John.
Ridiculous amount of money. Yeah.
It's not right, because when you factor in, again, so the fact that it's the Murrayfield, it's the travel, it's the staying over, it's all that sort of thing, it becomes ridiculous. And actually, it's funny because I was looking at, I mean, Aurora and Ivor, I don't think are particularly big names unless you're into that kind of music. And I was even looking at like merch and stuff like that, and you're like, t-shirts, 40 quid and stuff like that. And you just think it all feels a bit of a, having said that though, their gig tickets weren't expensive. We were probably about £40 or £50 for those tickets.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's everything else that goes along with it too. I mean, I get that he's earned his flowers. He probably has earned every penny of his 250 quid, but it still seems a lot when you're.
It is, yeah. They don't need to. In smaller venues, you would expect it to be slightly more because it's per head, really, isn't it? Your profit. But when you're doing something like Murrayfield, and you're talking what 60, 70,000 people probably going to that, and £250 a pop, and you're paying for your ticket a year in advance for it, so they're earning all the way there. They're earning on the interest, they're earning on the sales and all that as well, and like I say, all the merch and everything. The fact that you're paying like £8 for a drink and all this stuff as well, just crazy. Really,
and it's not just the ticket itself. There's all these imaginary booking fees that are added on as well. That are one of the girls that I work with, I think she'd paid £600 for 4 Oasis tickets at Murrayfield, but by the time all the booking fees had been added on, it was closer to £700. So you're talking about £25 worth of booking fees per ticket.
Yes, yeah. I've never understood about a booking fee. You're making one booking. Doesn't matter how many tickets you're booking. You're still making one booking. So therefore, why are you paying fees per? It's because it's just an additional charge on it, And I know the venues say, "Oh, we need that in order to provide the service," and say, "But you're charging the act to use your facility, so you're getting that money. So what's this extra money you're doing? What's this extra money you need for IT?" All that sort of stuff, maintains their website. And anybody knows, anytime there's a big gig, the Ticketmaster website just falls over its arse every single time.
I mean, I actually read that I think it was Edinburgh City Council are going to charge. This is so funny. They're going to charge Oasis for putting on extra trams to get people out of Murrayfield that night. Like, how can you do that?
Well, it's non-timetabled service, I suppose. You can do that, but that should all be written into contracts. I've said that before as well. That sort of stuff should be thought of in advance, especially for a concert that is a year hence. It's not like it's not a
surprise.
Not a surprise gig. Yeah, it can be well organised. That should be part of the negotiations for getting the license. Saying it's going to cost you this much because there's this charge to and really they should be saying, we're going to put these trams on, but they're going to be free, but you're going to pay for them. Because it's your gig, and if you're charging 150 quid a time, you're talking about maybe what £3 or £4 a head to get people back into city centre from Murrayfield, it just does not make sense whatsoever. I mean, obviously it would be different in Glasgow because there's only one train line that's anywhere near Hampden, so you can imagine it's getting to the point where a lot of concerts that are getting advertised are not selling out because they're charging too much for the tickets, or as soon as they go in to try and get tickets, they're bombarded with all these secondary ticket sites.
And people, I think, as well, are just thinking about, and I know this sounds really sad because why are you going to a gig when your only thought is getting home? But for a lot of people it's relying on a taxi or a train or a tube or whatever. And nobody wants to be standing in that queue that goes, especially like I'm thinking the Hydro, that queue that goes along the big tunnel. You're waiting there for an hour or so, and then you've missed the last train or whatever. So I think a lot of people are kind of put off by that. I mean, we drove in and just parked at a Partick and just walked up to QMU and stuff like that. But if you're like, because a couple of people left Aurora early because she finished maybe about 10 to 11, and I assume that was to go and get like last train home and stuff like that. Because it is, you're trying to time it with, if this gig finishes at 1:45, will I get out in time to make it back to which is not fair because it ruins your enjoyment as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, totally. Yes, it does. Some acts now deliberately play earlier. Mm-hmm. So it depends on their audience, I think it is. So you've got these sort of more, I wouldn't say heritage acts, it's more, they're still gigging, still bringing in new music. They're actually starting at, say, 5 o'clock at night. So they're finishing quite early. So people...
A nice sensible 7:30,
Yeah, no, it has been done. And what they're doing is they're catering to their audience, because you'll get people who will not go to a gig if they say, it's finishing at 11. It's going to be a real hassle trying to get home, you know. Who's going to look after my car? I think is probably what Chris would be thinking.
Definitely. Yeah, because he did because we parked, and then he ummed and awed as to whether or not he was okay with the parking space in case somebody took a corner too quickly and then, rammed his car. So we debated this. He parked where he parked, and then we came back, and as we were walking back, he was like, that white car behind me is really close. I'm going to have to inspect the car, just make sure they haven't bumped it. Thankfully, all was fine, but I could tell that was a big... I mean, it is. You're parking on a random street, but it was a big priority to make sure the car was...
So when the white car actually came in and parked behind him, the nanny cam didn't kick in and tell him there was somebody parking too close. No, okay. It needs to look into that, obviously.
Yeah, the battery must have died or something like that. But he's away on a big run today, so he's just glad that the weather's better, because I have to say it was a bit miserable going into the GFT last night, given that we'd get absolutely soaked. And of course, you're sitting there in a soaking wet jacket, and then you're putting it on the seat, and it just all feels a bit minging. But
I get caught out yesterday because we were doing, the Kirky Cinema was doing a screening of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire over in Lennoxtown, and it's in the Memorial Hall in Lennoxtown. It's one of these venues that has been there for over 100 years in various guises.
Wow.
But they don't use the front door of the Memorial Hall, they use a side door. And anybody that's got any sort of difficulty trying to walk or in a wheelchair or anything, they would have real difficulty getting in, because there's steps to get up from the entrance, from the side entrance, to actually get into the hall. So that's not good. It's getting renovated. It's all getting done up, and I think it's next year. But when we were unloading all our stuff, it was chucking it down, and we get completely soaked. But that's just there's nothing you can do about that. But it's just thankfully, when we were loading up again at the end of the show, it was sunshine. We caught it in between showers, which was quite good. So it was all right. But the screening itself was quite quiet. It was the first one they've done there, and they'd only decided maybe about 10, 12 days ago what film they were going to show, so it wasn't enough time to get posters put out and stuff like that. So there's maybe only about 15 folk there, but yeah, it's a bit of a slow start for us. I'm not 100% hopeful that it's going to continue after a year, but we will push ahead and keep going, because we're not getting sales of tickets in the way that we thought we would. I don't know if it's bad timing and things, because the next film we're going to show is Twisters and Inside Out 2. Which was, you would think Twisters, that's great. But then you think, well, tornadoes are kind of topical at the moment for all the wrong reasons.
Oh, dear.
So, even though it doesn't affect the west of Scotland or anything, people are saying, well, I've got this stuff in the news. Why would I watch beautiful people in the middle of a tornado?
I know, but it's surely more fun to watch Glenn Powell in a Twister than some random Floridian man. Sorry, Florida.
The other stuff. I will mention one thing that I've been watching. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen The Chestnut Man on Netflix?
I've read the book.
There's the adaptation. It's a 6-part adaptation. It's on Netflix. It's been there for a wee while, actually. And I just watched the first episode of that, and it's creepy as fuck.
Oh, it is. I remember reading that book and thinking, I'm not sure I want to continue with this. I'm very disturbed. So if it's anything like the book, you're in for a treat.
Yeah, it's the first episode was really, really good. Really enjoyed it. It's always a bit icky with, obviously, if there's any sort of child stuff in it, but you kind of expect that from a lot of these Scandi dramas, Scandi thrillers and all that as well. So I'm quite enjoying that one. That's fairly decent. But there's